Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? All right, so we're going to be doing like the pillar dance, okay? So I'm going to be moving now and then so that you're going to be able to, you're seeing me and I'm seeing you, because these pillars are a little challenging. So just please move as you need to so that you can feel connected. Because no matter where I move, I seem to be missing someone, and I don't want to miss anyone. So what I understand about this Friday Cafe is that this is your time, right? This is time for you. Is that right? Yes. Because it seems to me that probably in the work that you do, you spend most of your time doing for others. Is that right? Yes. Okay. So this is like what they call a little self-care time. Is that right? Yes. Okay. So let me just be really upfront with you. In general, I'm horrible about self-care, all right? So I'm sure, because we're all in the helping professions, so I'm sure that I have many compatriots here that are not great at self-care. Who in the room would say, I'm awesome at self-care? Okay. You promote it and you say it, but do you do it? All right. All right. Well, let's give these self-care people a hand, because so we'll definitely be gleaning their wisdom today. All right. So, but I do know a few things about how to make it through tough times. So that's what I will bring today, hopefully, to all of you and get your wisdom as well. So. I don't know about you, but this seems to be a very difficult time in the life of our nation and in San Mateo County. And this picture, anybody figure out what this is? But what else? Missing something. Well, yes, it does have many, many miles. But if you look right there, there's something missing. The battery's missing, right. So my colleague last week was supposed to be at a meeting, and he texted me this photo and said, I'm going to be a little late. Because somebody had broken into his car, not only stole his battery, but cut the battery wires. Okay, so this is how I feel some mornings. No battery. Anybody else feel like that? Yeah. Right? That somebody stole my battery, or that it just died from overuse, or I jumped it too many times. So anyway, if you're feeling that way this morning, I hope that by the time we're done, you feel recharged. All right? So the objectives today, to connect with each other, to be inspired and lifted up, to generate ideas that prepare us for the marathon, which is what our work is, right? It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. To remember what grounds us, and to have fun and reconnect to the joy. So, to do that, we need trust. Can everybody see this? All right, so we'll build a little trust together. And this is a... So I'll try to be a little clearer in any instructions that I give, and hopefully we can build trust that doesn't look like this. So, is that hilarious or what? It is scary. All right. Now we'll move from the hilarious to Rumi. Everyone, or probably most of you know the great 13th century mystic poet Rumi. Well, this is also Rumi, and it was a highlight of my ministry, I would say, in the last number of years. This little boy's name is Rumi, and I got to baptize him, so I can say I baptized Rumi. So, but that's not the Rumi we're talking about. I'm talking about the great poet who said, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." And I think so much of the time in our country right now and in our national discourse and our regional discourse, everything's about who's on what side of what issue, who's right and who's wrong. And, today I hope to help create a space with all of us in our souls and our hearts that we can meet beyond those ideas for a minute, that we can suspend those and be in our deep humanity with one another, where we can show up with our full selves and just let go for a little bit of, even though we'll talk about some of it, but let go internally of some of those things. And just so you know, I'd be most happy to send this PowerPoint out in a PDF and that you can have, so if you want those things. Can we try to meet in the field a little bit today? That wasn't very confident, but I'll take it. I'll take it. All right. So just, they said that they want each speaker to say a little bit about themselves. So I'll just say a little bit about myself. So this is my spouse, Ann Lee. We've been happily married for 10 years, and out of 26, that's not bad. So, no, we've been together 26 years, and she's a really grounding presence in my life. And 26 years, I say, in gay years, that's 50. So we've been together a long time. Gay years are like dog years, kind of. This is my daughter, and this is her just a few weeks ago. She made a volleyball team. Her name is Mercy. And I do want to say that one of my kind of life mottos comes actually from the Hebrew Scriptures, which is, and I've had this for decades, to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. Little did I know that the love mercy would actually be tangible in this beautiful child. So we've had her since she's 4, and this is her. She just made a volleyball team, and she's delighted to do that. And this is her when she was in 5th grade. I know, right? So I made, or 5th or 6th, I don't remember. Anyway, she was doing a presentation on Michelle Obama. So she, right? I mean, yeah. All right. The shoes are great, aren't they? Yeah. And this is my dog, Sheba. She's a Gordon Setter mix, and she is also a grounding presence in my life, even though she's a prodigal dog. And no matter where I go, people stop me and tell me how beautiful she is. But there's a price for beauty. So I don't know if you can see that or not. Oh, yeah, the expression, if you could see her expression, sorry, it fades out, but the expression is, seriously? So anyway, she is something that brings me great joy in my life. And so many of you know I'm a minister, but for me, core to who I am is really doing justice work. So I do not see my ministry in the 4 walls of a church or any church. And so I care deeply about issues of justice and peace and equality. And I know that you all do too, so I hope that we can feel kindred spirits about that. Let me just say a little bit. I was born in New Hampshire in a very conservative state. Our license plate is live free or die, so that tells you a lot. I grew up as a conservative Baptist. I don't know if that means anything to you, but how many people know the Southern Baptists just a little bit? Okay, we thought they were liberal. Just giving you a little context, all right? So you might say I've come a long way, baby. I don't know, but let me just say a word about what has formed my character and my, kind of posture in life. I spent time in South Africa. Bless you. I spent time in South Africa before apartheid was dismantled, and I worked with the Black student Christian movement there. And what I learned in South Africa in the midst of all that, I learned joy. That's what my Black South African friends taught me. We one time went to a beach and it had this huge sign that said whites only, and we all went there and we had our picture taken under the sign. All my Black South African friends and me underneath this big sign that said whites only. And we were laughing and having a great time, and then the police started rolling up on the beach, on the sand, and we had to run. And I was scared to death, right? And my friends were running and laughing. And as we were out of breath and we got to a safe place where that they stopped chasing us, and my friend said, you have to run with joy because it is the only thing that they can't take from you. And so that really taught me, and that prepared me for when I came back from South Africa. I worked in the Castro in the early and mid-90s, through the 90s actually, during some of the worst AIDS years in the Castro, in a church where we were losing 3 and 4 people every week. And that taught me hope. How to show up in the midst of despair, how to show up in the midst of incredible marginalization at that point, and show up week to week and find the places and moments of hope to give people. And now I have a teenager, and that is teaching me resilience. So joy, hope, and resilience are some of the things I hope we can touch today. All right, are we together so far? Yes. All right. Oh, I got an amen. Wow. I don't even get that from my congregation half the time. All right, so this is about, so that's all I'm going to say. This is about you and your time and you having conversations with each other, and I'm going to do some facilitating of that. So here's what we'll do. In triads, so you might have to move your seat. In triads, here's what I want you to do. It's important to make sure. So this you're going to do in about 2.5 minutes each. Okay, and one person's going to go. Once you're in your triad, you decide who's going in what order. And the other 2 people just listen. We want to interject, but just listen. So you say where you're from, where'd you grow up, how many siblings did you have, and where are you in the order? And then describe a childhood challenge or an obstacle that you overcame. So
25 years of age to be a childhood challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. You can define childhood any way you want. Describe a childhood challenge or obstacle you overcame. And the goal is not to comment on each other's, the goal is just to listen, and then the next person will go, and I'll ring the bell when it's time to switch. And when you hear the bell, try to wrap up whatever you're saying within the next 10 seconds or so. Just finish a sentence or 2. Any questions? So you're each going to have 3 minutes to tell your triad these things. All right? Wow, this is a very compliant group. I love it. All right, is everybody in their triad? All right. So hopefully did you learn something about someone in that conversation that you didn't know before? Beautiful. And here's the deal. No matter where we come from, no matter our social location, our socioeconomic background, you know, we all have different kinds of adversity, right? And some way more than others. I mean, some people, you know, just have more than their share of adversity. It seems kind of random sometimes who gets dealt what. But we all have adversity. We've all acquired skills through challenges. And I know that you all have explored this before, but there's some reason, something in your life, good morning, where you went that drew you into the work that you're doing. And I imagine much of it was a challenge that you overcame that then drew you into this work. So, all right, here's what I'd like to do now. So one of the things is how do we stay resilient? How do we stay grounded? How do we find hope? And in this shifting environment, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but every time I turn on the news, I'm like, okay, what now? And, you know, whether it's the nation or our county or anything, what now? So how do we stay grounded? So that's one of the things that I wanted to share with you today, that a practice that you, if it works for you, you may or may not take with you. But let's do it together, because just even doing it even one time, I think, is powerful. So I'm going to ask that you stand and make a circle somehow. Just I'm going to try to stay here to see if you can see me. And you need to be solid this far from somebody. All right, so I'm going to make an observation. Is that all right? It's okay? Okay. Yeah. I'm very codependent, so I need feedback, all right? Good. So so here's what I noticed is that, and I'm culprit number one. So we get centered. So we had this lovely time of being centered and tranquil and everything. We greet one another, that's great. But then a number of us plugged right back in, right? Because it's what we do. It is a neurological addiction. It is. It's proven, right? We know this. And part of, I think, why it's so hard to, I'm not anti-technology, well, some days I feel like, but you know, we get centered, and it's, you know, it's almost uncomfortable to stay in that place for too long. And so unconsciously, we plug right back in, which then takes us back into, you know, I mean, I just got a text. I thought I was on airport or a plane or whatever it's called. You know, so then my mind all of a sudden is like, oh, dinner Saturday night. No, wait, no, I'm right here. I'm right here right now. So that's part of, I think, a practice as well. You know, I'm checking my email on my phone constantly. And you know what? 98% of the time, it is not urgent. And then I wonder why I don't sleep well at night, because my mind's all, right? So it's an observation not about this group in particular, but about our society in general. And I think it just adds the layers of how difficult it is to get present and to stay present, to get grounded and to stay grounded. So I'm going to invite you to return to a place of groundedness, which will mean unplugging from our devices for a moment. And we're going to do something very old-fashioned. I'm going to invite you to do some self-reflection by journaling for a few moments. And that's what these pages are for. There's a ballpoint pen. And I'm going to give you a couple prompts. Are any of you journalers anyway? A few? You are? Okay. I know, in my mind. In my mind, I'm a journaler too. In my mind, I love gardening. I do. I love the idea of gardening. Yeah. I actually love cooking. Okay. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask that you stay unplugged, that we honor silence, and I'm going to give you some prompts and probably 5 or 6 full minutes to do this. There's 4 questions up there. You can answer all of them or just one of them that really calls to you. Here's what I'm going to ask. No matter how hard it is, that once we begin, that you keep your pen moving on the paper, right? It's just the practice. Even if it's like, I have no idea why she is asking us to do this. This is stupid. I have nothing to say. Keep it going, and often I am amazed at what will come out if I just keep my pen moving, because it triggers something deeper within. And I just want to make sure, I really appreciated somebody saying the safety of the room. I do feel it's a very safe environment here with you all. This will not be something that you will need to share. It's yours. You can throw it away. You can take it home. You can do whatever you want. But there may be an opportunity if you want to share something. But it's that going in first before we share externally. But of course, this is your personal and private. But something might come out that you end up wanting to share with your table. Any questions? All right, I'll ring the bell and put the questions up. Hopefully you'll be able to see them. And then we'll take 5 or 6 minutes of silence, and I encourage you to just keep writing. So kind of in a spirit still of reflection and gentleness, I invite you just to take time with your table mates, and if something was revealed to you or something that you just want to share from what came up for you, I just want to provide the space to do that. And if you don't want to, you don't need to. We can move on to something else, but let's open that space if anyone wants to just share, oh, this came up for me, or, you know. Here's what I feel like I might need now. I'm just curious, before we do that, how many took time to answer the first question? Okay, how about the second question? Oh, wow. All right, third, and then the fourth. Okay. So maybe just choose one thing maybe that you want to share, or that maybe you didn't even write down, but maybe one thing if you'd like to. All right, gosh, it's the hardest thing to do, to ring the bell when people are still involved in conversations. So there was a lot of different energy around different tables, a lot of emotional energy around different tables, different kinds of emotions. So I'm just wondering if we could take some time together, obviously respecting confidentiality and being sensitive to one another, as I know that you all are, but just maybe some reflections on, what did you hear? Did you hear at your tables? Or you might even want to share something, sometimes I like to call self-reflection self-revelation, because sometimes when I actually stop to reflect, then things are revealed to me. Oh, that's why I'm feeling irritated, or, oh, I'm not really feeling angry. Underneath that anger is sadness. Those are the things that get revealed when I take time to reflect. And I think that's the beauty of this, where you can come together monthly and do this, is such a beautiful model. In fact, I've been thinking, I need to do this for the faith leaders in San Mateo County. We need to have a, Wednesday cafe or something to do this. I mean, wow, what a gift. What a gift. So what did you hear? Just things that are bubbling up on your heart, either from what was revealed to your own self or something that you noticed at your table.
I don't know if I see the power that you can do it.
Right. But it just, as, Flor, is that? What Flor said just reminded me something that I just kind of also felt in the room in that moment, is that, you all carry so many stories around, not just in your soul, but in your body. And so how do we, as people that are in the helping professions, not get completely weighed down with the weight of the world, which we help hold, as well as, and so I had to learn early on, because truly it just about killed me. And so my mantra is, be a river, not a sponge. And that's really helped me. Be a river, not a sponge. People tell me all kinds of things, and I just imagine them in the big river of love and compassion. And I have to remind myself, do not be a sponge. Because that, in the long run, it doesn't help anybody, right? And it certainly doesn't help me to be a sponge and just, there's sometimes that, that's why I put up, what is breaking your heart the most. I mean, there are some days I just think I just can't have my heart broken one more time by all the pain and suffering in the world and right here in our communities, the stories that I hear. And what families go through and people go through and the elderly go through. So, that's I have to return to that again and again, be a river, not a sponge. And I try to step into that river of love and compassion and hold and then let that flow. Because if it just stays here, like my body is just starts to, with the weight, and that's, you carry these stories in you as well. Other things that you heard or noticed or felt? Right.
Questions throughout the whole day.
Right. So, as you might imagine, I thought through that process so that, because that's how life is, right? That's how life is. And so then how do we stay grounded, show up, and be who we are becoming in the midst of things that break our heart? Because the propensity for all of us when things are heartbreaking is to shut down, because it's too painful to stay open, right? And yet we can't do our work effectively unless we're open. So that's why returning to these practices, whatever grounds you, is so important. And it's multiple times a day. In my work, I'll have a family come in that has just lost a loved one. And there are times, it was just happened a couple weeks ago, a very unexpected death. And I was in my office meeting with a staff member about something. My phone rings, I pick it up, and the receptionist says, "You need to come out here right now." And, this woman just dissolved in my arms because her husband died unexpectedly the night before. And she had driven, they were on vacation, doesn't matter, but driven, all these hours just to get to the church so she could tell us, because the church is very much a part of her community. And so, that grief, I just felt that grief in my body. So, I really love this person, and I loved her husband. His memorial's actually tomorrow. But then the next hour, I'm meeting with a couple that's going to get married, and they're so happy, right? Or they, are having a child, or, and I'm sure you experienced this, but, really being present with the grief, and then the next moment, I'm like, 1 minute, 2 people are sitting on my couch that are getting married, and the next people that come in the door are sitting in chairs because they're getting divorced, right? And I have to be present to each situation and try to meet people energetically and emotionally when I can. And so that, It's a lot, and you deal with a lot with families. Beautiful. Anything else? I don't want to. A lot of personal stuff, I imagine. Yeah. All right. In just a few minutes we have left together. Let's move. We've gone in. Let's move outward a little bit. How would you describe the current climate in San Mateo County? Not the weather, but the social climate. How would you describe that? You're deep in it. You're deep in, it's kind of like asking a fish what is water. But it's good for the fish to reflect on the water now and then, all right? So how would you describe it? Fear, okay. Disparity. Not despair, but disparity. Disappearing. So my friends in the organizing community call it the other deportation. Right? The housing crisis, the other deportation. Yes.
Only the ones that can afford stay.
That's right, right. So how is there a word you want for that? Apartheid. Yes, that's fine.
How, I don't know how to put this, but values, to me, it's like, what is the value now of San Mateo County? I mean, like you said, is it technology or the value of the families, people, the humans?
So this feels up for grabs, doesn't it? Our values feel up for grabs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oblivious.
Say more?
Because I feel like because there's a whole set of demographics here in the county that are not from San Mateo County originally, they're from different parts of the country, they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Lost.
Oneself, our community, our culture, just lost in general.
Yeah.
It's stressful.
Stressful. I heard an R word. Resilience. Uh-huh. Yeah. Bless you. Hope? Okay, good. I was just going to say, do we want a couple positive words up here? Well, it's hard, right? It's hard. We've got resilience. We've got hope. Lack of resources? Yes. Of course, then the question becomes, then how are those resources distributed, right? Which goes back to? Yeah. Right.
I don't want food like they say. I don't want cheap food. I want a place where I can pay rent.
Right.
Free rent.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Planning, there's a lot of planning by government officials.
There is.
How to prepare for what may happen.
Yeah. Planning. Mm-hmm. Anything else? What's that? Pushed out. Yes. Pushed out, priced out.
I don't have a specific word. I just like, I don't know how to describe that.
Yeah.
have so many beautiful pieces, like half in fray,
Right.
and so it's like it's beautiful. And then at the same time, I go visit families in like East Palo Alto who are living very different versus someone from Belmont. So it's like I just don't know how to describe that.
Yeah.
It's so different just within like a 5 mile.
Right. Yeah. Not even 5 miles. It could be just the other one side of El Camino, even, right? Or the other side of 101, right? And then it just feels like there's this saying, and I can't remember who said it. Probably some liberation theologian that I read, but saying that the wealthy or the rich don't really understand how the poor live, but the poor absolutely know how the wealthy live, right? And I think that's true. I think that, how do we get people with wealth and privilege in our county to care about, I preached a sermon a while ago on the common good. Like how can we return to the common good? And on the way out, somebody who I know has, let's just say, because I'm on video, diametrically opposed political views to my own, said, if we could just, decide on what the common good is. It's like, okay, can't say what I really think at that moment. But what do you want in your own life? You want to be able to pay your rent. You want your children to have good and safe schools. You want access to good food, to open space, to parks, to diverse communities. It's just a few of the things. A roof over your head. Okay? Let's just start there. Now, could we say, wouldn't it be great if everybody could have that in our county? That's the common good. Let's just start there. And it's so hard to get people who, this whole thing with people that are particularly privileged and saying, well, I work hard. I worked hard for what I got. Wow, okay. And does that imply that other people don't work hard? Because I know people that work 12 and 16 hours a day, live in a, apartment with 3 other families, and still can't afford to live here. Or commuting from Tracy. And then people, have the audacity to say something, oh, we have affordable housing in San Mateo, it's called Tracy. Seriously, at a public meeting. So, and then complain that there's too much traffic. Okay, I've just gone off on a tangent. I'm going to come right back. I thought I could make it through the time without my preacher self, but I slipped. Anyway. And so
I just have to say I'd like to suggest that we not make broad strokes about any group of people.
Correct.
Whether they're wealthy or whether they're not wealthy.
I agree. Thank you.
I think we're individuals.
Yep.
I think we need to look at there are some individuals who are wealthy who are oblivious to the lives of the
Right.
poor, and vice versa. And then there are some who are actively engaged. And so
You are right. Thank you.
caution us to make broad strokes.
Thank you. No, don't be sorry. Thank you for that, because
I'm probably the elder in the room, so I get to say that.
no, I appreciate that, Faye, because we don't want to make broad strokes about anybody. And I think what I get passionate about is I just feel like this is becoming an elite county, and that you can only live here if you have certain things. So, but I really appreciate that corrective. I really do. Thank you. Flo. Good to go.
Negative words, and it goes back to the same. I think San Mateo is like hungry. It's hungry of change, hungry of that.
I agree.
Regrouping, reconnecting, and we're like trying to find that way to get there. So we're
Yeah.
like willing to let it. We're hungry to get there.
Absolutely, and we see this. And we're running out of time. So let's just kind of, I want to leave you with a little something for you to think about. So one of the things in the current climate, I think there's a lot of conditional belonging, that people don't feel, a lot of our families don't feel like they can belong, or that belonging is very conditional. Does that make sense? And a friend of mine used this phrase, and I've just been thinking about, because our deepest need, right, and we all know this, is the need to belong. And so this climate, and I know that what you're trying to provide for your families is also a sense of belonging. The families that you work with, their needs are not to feel afraid, not to feel like they don't belong, to feel like there's somebody that's got their back, somebody that's going to advocate for them, somebody who is present and listens, and the tangible needs of access to services. And we won't have time to go here, but returning to gratitude, somebody has talked about the gratitude arc, ARC. When we have gratitude, it amplifies goodness. It releases us from negative emotions, and it connects us to others, which I think is a beautiful way to think about gratitude. But what if instead of conditional belonging, I'll send the PDF. What if instead of conditional belonging, we were able to somehow communicate unconditional belovedness to people? Unconditional belovedness, that they are beloved, no matter their status, no matter whether they have a green card or a passport or not. Unconditional belovedness. And I want to just suggest to all of you, friends, now you're friends because we've spent this time together, that always begins with our own sense of belovedness, which is why when I do that shower, I shower myself as somebody who is beloved, so that then I might have that energy in meeting other people and in that presence. So I'm going to, I'll ask you if you would just stand for a moment, would you, at your place? We'll just take 1 minute, and then I know Carla's going to close us with some announcements and things. So I want you to just imagine for a moment the move from conditional belonging to unconditional belovedness. That's up to you folks. And so I want you to remember this for a moment, to take the energy in, to shower your own self with belovedness. I mean, what would that be like to live from that place more? Without the self-critic, without the guilt. And now what I want you to do is, to your lovely friends and colleagues in the room, to take that, all that is good and right from the earth, from the sky, and shower one another. Knowing that you face the same challenges and need the same deep soul things as those next to you. And then together I'm going to ask that we say to all, direct it to all our families. If you can remember, if you can see it, if not, those who can, just say it. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings awaken to the light of their true nature. May all beings be free. May our families be peaceful, happy, safe, know that they belong, and know that they are beloved. And may each of you know that in a way that strengthens you, that lifts you up, and that allows you to be all that you can be in the beautiful and challenging work that you do. Thank you.